Hey there, Lions! Did you know that you can get access to exclusive bonus audio content by joining our paid support group, the Lions of Liberty Pride? For as little as $5 a month, you can help us grow this program to new heights. Learn more by heading over to lionsofliberty.com/support.
If they come over here and start gassing us, fine.
Fine. That's going to be the cold open. If they come over here and start gassing us, fine.
That's it.
Kill them all. Kill them all.
Welcome to the Lions of Liberty podcast. Here is your host, your guide, your shining beacon of liberty, Mark Claire.
Welcome back, Liberty lovers, to another Lions of Liberty. And I'm very excited, not just because I've already got a beer in my hand, which I do, and a little bit in my belly, I'm not going to lie, but also because I've got three of my favorite podcast hosts on the line to share in the liberty and the libations, because, yes, indeed, my friends, it's time for another edition of Libertarians in Living Rooms Drinking Liquor.
Let me be your whiskey shot to quickly ease your pain. My loving arms will be much stronger. Your longing eyes will long no longer.
And my first guest, he is familiar to listeners of this program. He is the host of the weekly Felony Friday here on the Lions of Liberty podcast feed. He is a co-founder of Lions of Liberty. He hails from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He is the one and the only John Odermatt.
What's going on, man? Great to be back on another episode of LILDL.
It is, isn't
Fantastic. Yeah. It's been, I think I missed the last two or three. I don't know. I felt kind of weird listening to them because when you're listening to something you normally take part in, it's like I wanted to jump in and say stuff, but I was just yelling in my car. But yeah, it's good. It's good to actually be back on the podcast.
Odie, I forgot to ask you, are you ready to roar? All right, good. For some reason, I never ask if people are ready to roar on the Libertarians in Living Rooms Drinking Liquor. I just assume everyone is. Or Wicker. And I feel like I can't make these assumptions anymore. I have to confirm the roar readiness, and I just did. So before we move on to our next guest, what are you drinking over there?
I'm drinking a delicious Bell's Oberon. It's a nice, tasty wheat beer. It's a real treat. If you haven't had one, I really strongly recommend it. I've had about a case in the past week. It's delicious.
Wow, all right. And that's good because you also get to check off one of those boxes in the food pyramid with the wheat. So you're good on that.
That's
for the
true.
day.
Yeah, you need like what is it? 11 servings of wheat per day?
Something like that. And what have you had? Like 9 beers so far? So you're getting there.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
All right. Next up, I've got the host of one of the most up-and-coming libertarian podcasts out there. He's one of the hardest working men in Liberty show business. He is Liberty's rabble-rouser, and he hails from Fairfax, Virginia. I am, of course, referring to Remzo Martinez. Remzo, are you ready to roar?
Roar!
I think that's a yes.
Pretty good.
Is that it? Did I do good?
I believe
that
was the correct answer, my friend. How
Is
are
that
you doing?
adequate? I am doing outstanding, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
How does it feel? I believe this is your first time in the Liberty living room, so to speak, our virtual liquor room here.
I'm kind of like Eminem. My palms are sweaty, heart beating heavy, mom spaghetti, all that jazz. Yeah, I'm not freaking out. I'm not too nervous. I'm doing good. I'm perfectly calm, Mark. I'm perfectly calm. The expectations are high, but I'm absolutely right there. I'm good.
This guy just rolls with the Eminem lyrics like it's no thing. These millennials, I'm telling you, they're smarter than we give them credit for.
Thank you. I'm doing very well.
What are you drinking over there in Fairfax?
Kind of boring whiskey and Dr. Pepper.
Fairfax, Virginia. How far is that from Leesburg? You're not too far from Howie, I think.
No, we're basically neighbors. He's only about 30, 40 minutes away.
It'd be funny if you literally live next door to him the whole time. Like, man, it's really fucked up. You guys hasn't even knocked on the door, asked for sugar or anything.
I'm still waiting for him to, ask if I want to go grab lunch or something, but he must hate me or something.
Howie, you heard it here first. Remzo is reaching out desperately over the airwaves. All right. Speaking of desperate, we're going to move on to our last guest here. He is the number one reason why I am almost definitely going to have to mark this episode as explicit in iTunes. He is the host of the Johnny Rocket Launchpad from Seattle, Washington, Johnny Rocket Adams.
Roar!
I don't even need to ask. He just fucking roars. See, you know what? I curse first. Here I am blaming you for all the future cursing, and I was the first one to break it
Fuck you
open.
and you're desperate.
All
what
right.
the fuck is that? Speaking of desperate.
Now, I don't know. It seemed right at the time. You're not desperate. You got a lovely woman, a great show. You got a killer life out there in Seattle.
Yeah, man, I'm doing good, man. I'm glad to be here with you guys, and I'm ready to rock and roll this shit, man. And yes, I just made it explicit. So fuck you, people.
I already messed up. I didn't even ask Remzo what he was drinking. So we got to.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did.
I did.
Yeah, whiskey and Dr. Pepper. It was that boring that you just forgot about it.
Yeah, it's like that's like I'm drinking milk.
And then I'm like, oh, I totally forgot what Johnny was drinking. Johnny, what are you drinking?
I'm not drinking anything. I'm joking.
he's
No,
drinking
I'm actually drinking something good from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The old standard Miller Lite. Bam.
All right. Well, Johnny wins for, I guess,
The most boring
boring
beer.
drink. That's what I was going to say. Because you're so damn desperate there. Oh, you got your Miller Lite.
Hey, man. I got cheap taste, man.
You know what? I don't believe I mentioned what I was drinking. So I think I need to do that. And I'm actually drinking a beer from the New Agorist Brewing Company out here in Southern California, because a guy named Alexander Meyer, he's going to be a guest on the show in a couple weeks. He actually already was a guest on the Remzo Republic, and he sent me a couple samples.
He
of his
didn't
beer.
send me anything. I just want to point that out. He didn't send me anything. So if I'm a little bit peeved that you're getting a chance to drink it and I'm not, it's because I'm a little bit jealous.
Are you even 21, Remzo?
Yes.
The funny thing is that I invited Remzo on the show, and then a minute later I was like, hold on, dude, you are 21, right? I mean,
boy, not yet.
it's a compliment.
Remzo, how old are you, man?
22.
Oh, okay. He's good, dude.
Yeah, you're good to go. We can do anything. It's fine.
It's all legal. It's all good.
Fast forward 3 years, Remzo is just totally heroined out because of the Lions of Liberty. We told him he could do anything he wanted.
Mark and Johnny tell me everything was acceptable.
But the name of this beer is the PAX Pale Ale, and I really do like it. And I'm not just saying that because he's going to be a guest on the show, and I don't want it to be awkward. I'm saying that because I actually like it. I'm more of a lighter beer kind of guy, and this one is actually, it's like a light ale that's infused with a little bit of grapefruit, but you cannot tell. It just adds a nice little zing to it, and it's delicious. So shout out to Alexander. He's going to be on the show in a couple weeks, so look out for that, kids. Speaking of shows and guests that we had, what's been going on with your shows? I mean, I listened to every single episode of all your shows, of course, so don't even think twice about that. But I'm wondering, from you guys' perspective, what some of the we're almost oh my god, we're almost halfway through 2017 already. I feel like New Year's was literally last week. But what are some of the best guests, or I don't want to say best? All our guests are great, of course, but I'm curious what some of the guests that stand out the most, I guess, from the past year or so from some of you guys. Odie, what about you?
I'm going to go with the trifecta of former police officers that I've interviewed here recently. I had, back in episode 40, I had on Michael Wood Jr. That was an interesting conversation. He's more of a progressive guy. And we got a little bit of a back and forth on the Second Amendment and gun control. Then I had on more recently, episode 69, Dominic Izzo, who's just an awesome guy. He's actually going to be running for sheriff in Cook County, which is the largest county in Illinois, has Chicago in it.
But do not drink and drive around him. He will get you. He will get you.
He will get you. Yeah, he's a stickler for the DUIs.
He was almost a libertarian. He's like, end the war on drugs. And then suddenly he's like, but I swear to God, if you drink a beer and even look at a car, I will end your life. That's not a quote. I am totally exaggerating. He was actually much more reasonable than that, actually. But anyway.
Yeah, but he used to be a bartender. That's kind of the weird part. I think that's where that kind of comes from. Maybe he saw a lot of people, I don't know, getting cars inebriated or something. I don't know. Who knows? But anyway, then the third one will be my episode last week, which was Rayford Davis, the libertarian, anarchist, Rothbardian, just all around great guy. I know you've interviewed him, Mark, and
I have indeed.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with those three. They really stood out to me.
All right, so it's always good to get the perspective of the ex-officers, the people that used to go out and enforce the war on drugs and enforce all this stuff, and then often, at least in the case with all three of these guys, they all have basically come around to a very different position than they had, or maybe they were starting to have these thoughts from their officers, but now that they're not in that role, or I guess Izzo still is actually, right? I believe he still is.
No, he's in limbo
he's
right
in limbo,
now. He has, so he's, I guess, terminated right now, but he has a lawsuit. But he says he wants his job back, but I think he has his sights set on getting that sheriff position.
It'd be
with
weird
the county.
to work around a bunch of people you're just doing a bunch of YouTube videos about talking about how corrupt they are, though, huh?
Yeah, but he's been doing that for a while. So I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe they just don't have Facebook, and none of these guys like he's going in and having coffee with these dudes, and then he's like they're all high-fiving and playing basketball after work, and then they go and he just like trashes them on Facebook, and they have no idea. Maybe
it's possible. Cops they're a wacky bunch.
Wacky crew. All right, Remzo, what about you? You've had a ton of guests this year. You're what? You're banging out. You just banged out season 2, and well, I know this because I'm an insider, and I know that I'm being interviewed for the upcoming season 3. So, what stood out to you in the past year?
The best gift I probably got was a Trump victory, not because I wasn't expecting it, and I basically had to reformat how I was doing everything, but the fact that when it came to politics, everyone was extremely burned out. When it came to just talking about current events, people were getting extremely sick of the fake news media. And when it came to, just attacking Donald Trump and making fun of him, I just couldn't do that anymore because, the left has killed it. The right doesn't want to talk about it. And in terms of me, I just... honestly, I'm so apathetic about it. I'm supporting him when he's doing good things, and I'm, calling him out when he does bad things. But overall, what it did was it caused me to really shift my focus beyond just politics. Because when it comes to these ideas, these limited government, these individual freedom, these free market ideas, I really had to stretch out my comfort zone. And being a nerd, it was really easy for me to bring on, more comic book writers and stuff like that. But one of my favorite guests from this past season had to have been, well, actually, I'm going to say it's tied between two. One of them was my good friend, Matt Becker. We worked on the Tom Garrett for Congress campaign. And when Matt actually came over to my place to record in person, what he did was he brought 2 Viking skull mugs to drink from. So drinking from we call them the skulls of our enemies while we were recording this episode, talking about the hashtag resistance movement among the left. That was pretty awesome because for me, I started off as a community organizer and a student activist way yonder back. So for me to get to do that,
man, 2 peas in a pod.
Yeah. It gets a bad taste in everyone's mouth, but that was really my root. So getting back to that was cool.
Wait, so community organizing is a real thing? I literally always thought that was something made up for Barack Obama.
Well, it was. And then a bunch of conservatives and libertarians were like, we need to, destroy that too. Yeah, it was basically a shameless knockoff. With Students for Liberty, I was told, you're going to be a community organizer. And I was like, a drug dealer? It's like, what? So that was one of my favorite episodes. But in terms of kind of jumping out of my comfort zone, we had a absolutely non-political episode with one of my favorite podcasters, Jim Harold from the Paranormal and Campfire podcast.
I love that one. I love when podcasts get out of their normal box.
Yeah, it was so great because we were able to loop everything into culture, and my goal for my show is confront and engage the culture. So that one I was kind of nervous about, but it was just so much fun and people loved it, and it showed me that we could still, as long as the focus is straight, I could bring on anyone and we can have a great conversation while keeping within the realm of what we're doing. So Jim Harold, that was so much fun, especially since my dad listens to his podcast every day going to and from work because Jim Harold does it daily. So, it was great for my dad to check it out. And, Ryan is a giant paranormal junkie and I had so much fun talking to Jim. So that really showed me, I could make this work. And that's kind of the goal for season 3, even though we're not mixing things, up too much. That's really the goal. The goal is to engage the culture and, just have fun. We want to just make freedom fun again. So I think that episode from season 2 just really showed me that this could work if I just give it a chance. So I'm really looking forward to that.
I'm gonna trademark that, Remzo. Make freedom fun again. The hats are coming out in 2 weeks.
He did. I already did.
Did you really? Trademarked it? God.
You statist. How dare you?
How dare you?
I will use the laws on the books to my advantage.
How dare you utilize the state to prevent John from stealing your slogan? That is some BS right there. Speaking of which, John, I don't remember where I saw it. I really should have taken better note of it. But I saw a picture of someone wearing on Facebook wearing a tank top that was not produced by you that said "Make Liberty Great Again" on it.
I'm going to sue their pants off, those bastards.
On the next Lions of Liberty, the gang talks about how they're going to use state violence to sue everybody. Good times. Just kidding. Or am I? Johnny, what's been going on with the Launchpad, man? Big things shaking up in the Launchpad world.
There is, man. I guess we're moving away from the party politics. If you guys don't know this already, but Heather and I have pretty much dropped out of the Libertarian Party. And we figured, hey, you know what? Why don't we work on changing culture? And so that's been my focus, is getting more radical libertarians on the show. But I think in reality, I think it's better, from different walks of life, instead of just getting politicians and stuff like that, getting economists and getting Jamie Sherman. We just had Jamie Sherman on a couple episodes ago from the Voluntarist comic book series. We've had Chase Rachels on. We've had Lines of Liberty's Howie Snowden on 115. We've had some great guests, Robert Murphy.
Howie Snowden, who's that? I've never heard of that guy. Is he any
you don't
good?
know? Yeah, he's all right.
I hear he lives in Leesburg.
Right next door neighbors to Remzo.
I hear he hates Remzo. Just hates him.
I mean, he's just
won't
like,
even
fuck
look
that
at him,
Remzo
let
guy.
alone go to lunch with him.
Oh, no shit. He was talking to me. He's like, fuck, I'm ignoring Remzo. But that's, just to let you know, just don't try to reach out to him. He ain't going to respond.
So much hate.
I love inventing feuds on podcasts. It's one of my favorite things.
Actually,
starting today, it's one of my favorite
Howie's
things.
awesome. Howie's great. It was a great show. We had Roger Paxton. He was a great show, man. I mean, I love that show with Roger Paxton. And I don't know when this is airing.
You know what I don't like about Roger? I got to say, and he's going to listen to the show, so I feel bad criticizing him.
What don't you like about Roger?
Every time I listen to him, I feel like so dumb. Because he just is so on top of every issue, and he is such a great way of putting everything so succinctly. Where if I have an idea in the middle of a show, especially if I'm not scripting out what I'm going to talk about, I'll just start talking and I'll ramble and I'll listen to that show later. I'll be like, man, I made some points, but boy, I was just all over the place. Then I'll listen to Roger sum it up in like 20 seconds, and I'll be like, damn it, that's what I should have said. That 20-second Roger answer. So that's what I don't like about Roger. Just kidding. That's what I love about him.
He has a great radio voice, Roger Paxton. One of the best libertarian podcast voices. I mean, he sounds like he should be on the radio.
I sound like a child compared to him.
I mean, he does have a good bassy voice. He's clean too. He's crisp. But yeah, he's great. And by the way, we actually had our very first feud. Kurt and I actually had our first battle. Like Kurt and I were actually going at each other.
That was a fun one.
Yeah, I mean, it threw me out of the water. It wasn't like rehearsed, like, okay, Kurt, you say this, and I'm going to say this. No, he was like, no, I love what Trump's doing. I'm like, what? This is a goddamn libertarian show, dude. And he's just like, no, but I think he's doing the right thing. I'm like, dude, read a book. And I love Kurt, but man,
read a book, the ultimate comeback.
No, but
any book will do.
Read a book,
please. Man. No, I mean, Kurt's a great guy, and
the cat in the hat.
Here's the thing, Kurt doesn't have a lot of time to follow up on libertarianism like we do. So maybe he fell into that emotional void where he was like, oh, this feels right. This feels right. And I don't know, but I think I won that debate.
Boy, has that thought led to some bad decisions in life for just about probably everybody out there at some point. It feels right. It feels right. Do it.
Do it. But yeah, but I think that was the most memorable.
I can kind of get it that I can. Okay. Let's talk about this for a bit, because I think opinions are still pretty divided in the libertarian community, and it's difficult. I think Trump has put us in a tough spot, honestly, because he's not a libertarian, obviously. He's nowhere close to a libertarian. I can't even name a libertarian position of his. I can name a couple things he's done that are sort of more in that direction than they might otherwise be. But, I think Gorsuch is probably a better Supreme Court justice that would be more towards original intent of the Constitution than anybody Hillary would have nominated. I think that's one. But he puts us in this spot where he's so good at destroying the minds of just hyperbolic progressives. I mean, I know progressives, and there's progressives that listen to the show that are reasonable. So I'm not trying to lump all progressives together. They just have a different opinion. Those exist. But there's the other kind that are literally losing their minds over everything Trump does, to the point that even when he does something they want done, they lose their minds over it. Firing James Comey.
Did you see the Stephen Colbert thing?
Oh, that was great. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, no, you're booing for the wrong reason. No, stop. Lemmings.
That was 2 weeks ago you were supposed to boo, not now. Or they were cheering.
Yeah,
right?
for
They
those
were
that didn't see
cheering.
it, Stephen Colbert just started his monologue and started saying something about, oh, and James Comey was fired, expecting the audience to boo because it's a Trump thing. But the audience has been conditioned to hate Comey because that's what the Democrats have done for months. So they cheered, and then he was like, oh wait, no, you're not supposed to like that anymore. You didn't, and then total like. A moment that really, I think, exposes just the look. And I'm not saying this is only progressives. There's many Trump supporters that, and I think I'm more exposed to the progressive side because I live in California and a lot of the people I interact with than I would be the other side because I don't know Trump supporters in real life. I know people that think he's okay, but I don't know people that are like actually supporters, really, like true supporters. So I don't see that side of it. I'm sure there's many of those that are maybe hyperbolic and nuts too. So.
Well, Mark, I mean, like the thing, with the war or with Syria, I mean, point blank, we initiated war. That's some sort of war or an attack. And we didn't get Congress's approval. Even if we're, let's just say we're a minarchist or we're taking a minarchist position, they still didn't get the Congress's approval to approve that war or approve our strike or any of that. So for one, that's unconstitutional. So if we're looking at it from a minarchist position, but then we have a morality issue, and then we can look at it from an ANCAP position and saying, well, wait a minute, what gives us the right to go over there and just start attacking somebody? We're not in a defensive mode. We're in an offensive mode. And then some people would go, well, think about all the people that, Assad is killing with the chemicals. Then again, you have to ask yourself, well, how come there's all these other issues around the world? If that was the case, we'd be in, which we already are generally involved in every other conflict in the world. Why are we in this? Why would we get involved in this particular thing? So I don't know. I think they're just trying to appease to people or trying to get people's emotions stirred up, getting people riled up to go over there. And I don't think we should be involved. And if we do, if they come over here and start gassing us, fine. That there's a legitimate reason to go to war.
Fine.
But that's
going to be the cold open. If they come over here and start gassing us, fine. Johnny Adams.
That's it.
Kill them all. Kill them all.
Full stop. End quote.
Yeah. I mean, that's true though. I mean, we're not pacifists as libertarians, but we have the right to defend ourselves. And in this case, there's no reason to go to war.
Well, I don't love that he did the strike on Syria, but to me, that's nothing compared to the fact that the U.S. has been in Syria for 4 years, funding groups and
well, sure.
having airstrikes. And
yeah.
So that part to me, that one part is like very minor to me. No, it's not minor, but in the grand scope of everything that's been going on with the fact that we essentially fomented this war over the course of many years. Yeah. I mean, that's the greater evil. Yeah. He's not ending that either. So.
No, of course not. I mean, and they're going to perpetuate the wars. They want wars. It's good. It's good for business. And I mean, this is not a conspiracy theory, but trust me, there has never been you guys know, there's never been a time when I think there's been like increments of like maybe 1 or 2 years at a time where we have always been in some sort of conflict, and we just need to stop fucking getting involved and start taking care of our, reduce the scope of government and stop fucking invading other countries. Point blank. That's my opinion.
I like it. I like that opinion. And because we're talking about the military, this would be a good little transition moment because there's been a little controversy here in the past week or so. The vice chairman of the Libertarian Party, Mr. Arvin Vohra, been a past guest on this program. I will link, by the way, to Arvin's interview on the show, and I'll do my best to track down every interview you guys mentioned in this first little section here that you guys have done, and I will link to all of that over at today's show notes, which you can find over at lionsofliberty.com/295, because this is indeed the 295th episode of this program. Oh my God, getting so close to 300. I think I need to do something special. But I don't know. I'm going to work on it. But Arvin Vohra made some comments on Facebook, and I've seen some articles out there with headlines that I don't think are really totally accurate. I think they do exaggerate a little bit what he said. So, and I know this is going to rub people different kinds of wrong ways, but I just want to read what he actually typed so there's no confusion, there's no summary, there's the actual words, and then we can discuss, our various levels of outrage that might be connected to it. So, to quote Arvin Vohra, A common excuse to join the military, despite disagreeing with every single thing that it does. The military pays for college. Translation: I agreed to kill innocent people because I wanted the money. That type of decision-making is the lowest threshold of any kind of morality that I know of. Financial benefits do not justify killing strangers and destroying countries. Before you join the military, the DEA or other organizations that use violence first decide if you actually agree with their mission. If you do not, I wanted the money, that's in quotes, is not a moral excuse at all. And then he has the hashtag military intelligence, which I do believe has some sort of irony attached to it. Now, this did inspire, like I said, a lot of controversy, a lot of headlines, somewhat hyperbolic headlines. I wouldn't say totally hyperbolic. I mean, he did say these words. I'm not going to say anything more on it right now. I'm going to toss it to, why don't I just send it first to the person who I definitely know is upset by it for a fact. And that's someone who actually started a petition, I believe, or I don't know the level you're involved in. I believe you helped start it, Remzo. And, well, that's you, Remzo. So, Remzo, the floor is yours.
Yeah, frankly, I think his comments regarding that are bullshit, primarily because, I mean, come on, right there. When he was going and campaigning for Gary Johnson, and he was aggressively targeting active duty U.S. military men and women and veterans, he was trying to do everything he could to get them to overwhelmingly support Gary Johnson, which at the time, when you look at the Army Times and other military-centered presidential polling pieces, Gary Johnson was leading amongst current active duty U.S. men and women. At that time, he was also collecting, all these surveys and questions he was asking. So for him to say, okay, because you joined for the college, you automatically want to go and kill innocent people. One, that's bullshit, because you never asked whether or not, okay, do you have any other reason as to why you're joining the military? Because I can tell you from having a lot of friends and family, and, I'm not going to discuss myself, but yes, college is a giant indicator. That's one of the good things that the military offers, because you go and you give your service, you give so much time, you make so many sacrifices. It's okay if they're going to go ahead and pay for that. Of all the things you're going to get offered, because let me tell you, you do not make much as an enlisted soldier in the U.S. Army to go ahead and say, oh, well, I'm just going to be a hired gun. I'm going to be a sociopathic gun with a conscience, as he put, a gun with a conscience, so that way I can get college paid for. You're not going to look at the fact that the U.S. military, and regardless of the policies, regardless of the politicians, regardless of the stump pieces, regardless of the acts of inhumanity and evil that we've seen all countries commit, but just looking at the United States, the U.S. Army, the military, the men and women that put on that uniform are an overwhelming force for good. We liberated Europe. We've helped prevent South Korea from being completely annihilated by the North Koreans. You don't see this on the news very often, but we do have, and regardless of your opinion as to whether or not we should go and give aid to foreign countries, but whenever there's an earthquake, whenever there's a flood, whenever there's a tsunami, whenever there's a massive issue, we always have a U.S. carrier go out and aid civilians. And from looking at the men and women that have gone overseas and seen the impact of war, you will not meet another individual that has a love of humanity than a U.S. man or woman in uniform. So for him to go ahead and paint that wild-ass picture that they're a bunch of guns of consciences, I'm sorry. One, this isn't fucking Ancapistan. You're not going to go ahead and bring people into the party when you look at that. Two, he must obviously have not known many of those who have served in uniform at any point, because they actually hold many libertarian positions. And three, it's really easy to go out and say these things when you have no actual insight. Yeah, just asking, why did you join? Of course they're going to say that. The U.S. military, signing that contract is a large commitment. You don't just do it just because it's free college, just because you might get some housing here and there. It's a larger commitment than that. That is a big indicator, because you look at U.S. Army recruitment tactics. You look at recruitment tactics throughout the U.S. military. They go and target people that they can get in with these incentives. But let me tell you, a lot of the people that go in, because, I've met maybe one or two that went in just focused on the college, they change. They see that there's something bigger than them that they're serving. And for those that don't, they typically get kicked out or they leave for one reason or another. So there are a lot of things where, you could disagree with me on, people target me because I'm a Christian. I let it slide. People target me because I'm too conservative for libertarians, or I'm too libertarian for conservatives. And that's fine. We could disagree on 20 million things as much as you want. But to go ahead and paint that picture in an official capacity representing the Libertarian Party, and I'm not a Libertarian Party member anymore, but because I'm still a Libertarian, Joe Schmo on the street is going to hear that and just paint all Libertarians that way. When you're speaking in official capacity that way, I'm sorry, that shit does not fly. And I did start a petition because I either want the Libertarian National Committee to remove him or I want him to step down honorably. But he seems to be doubling down on stupid, so I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. So that's what I have to say.
Doubling down on stupid. Love it.
Remso, that was a hell of a rant.
That was hell of an awesome good time, man. I love that. I want to rewind this and hear it again.
I like drinking Remso. I like drinking and cursing.
I like
a little. You could sense the rage a little bit.
Are we corrupting this young child?
We are.
Oh, I was corrupted way before this.
Oh man. All right. So I mean, obviously you are in the military, and then you have a personal sort of effect by a statement like that because you feel that it's sort of lumping everyone into one group.
I mean, just real fast, and because people will ask, I try not to bring up my military career because I do a political show, but I am not active duty, so I can make these comments. I could do stuff like this, but I was 17 when I was looking at what I was going to do after high school, and while I did go to college, I did have a contract that helped pay for everything, and I'm going to graduate from Liberty University. By the time this comes out, it'll be after Saturday, but in a couple of days, I'll be graduating with my bachelor's in science and U.S. government politics and policy. But, that was not the only reason. It was an incentive because I was like, okay, I've got to pay for this massive behemoth. But, I did it because I love my country. I did it because, I was at Cato University in 2014. And I met a gentleman who was part of the Chilean military, and he was a libertarian, and a bunch of people asked him, it's like, how could you be a libertarian and be part of the freaking Chilean military during the time that Pinochet was in charge? And he was like, sometimes you have to remember that the military that best serves the people is that in which the citizens are in control. And my goal was to save lives and protect the people. And you look at that. I mean, I've known friends that have, helped protect Iraqi children from entering the slave trade. I know people that helped villages that were about to get wiped out overseas. And regardless of the specific mission, U.S. military personnel, large and a good giant freaking majority, they love humanity. They might be rough. They might be a little bit, shaken sometimes. They might not necessarily be the, just most outgoing people, but they love humanity in ways you will never understand unless you've been there or you've known them or you've loved them or you've been related to them. So, be angry at the politicians. Be angry at the government that does stupid things. But to take it out on their military, when they do something wrong, like that Marines United thing, obviously you need to kick those guys out. That's why we have the Uniform Code of Military Justice. But when you're going to go ahead and just call them guns with a conscience.
Where did you see that quote, by the way? Because I haven't seen that one. That wasn't the quote that I read. I'm sure. I mean, I don't think I'm making it up, but
I'm pretty sure it was on like a Liberty viral article. I saw a couple.
One of his I remember that. He's been making a lot of comments on Facebook.
That really, like that one thing right there, because I've heard that before. I had people, when I came back a couple of years ago back home, and some people caught up with me. Like they would bring that up because they're a bunch of progressive pussyfoots at that point. But no, it's like I'm not a gun with a conscience. I'm a human being. I've struggled. I've fought. I've embraced challenges. I've cried with my brothers. I know what that looks like. You want to take yourself down to the most basic essence of humanity, where you're raw and where you're in a situation where it's not pretty, and you've got to deal with the political end, you've got to deal with your social end, then you've got to deal with everything else you've got to deal with. To try and do that to those that have given everything, I'm coming after you. I mean, I'm freaking raising the flag of war. I'm going out for blood, metaphorically, but I'm not letting this slide whatsoever. And if it happens, good. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't mean I'm stopping. I don't care. It's a freedom of association thing or whatever, but I'm not letting this go.
Before the rest of us respond to this, I want to move over to Johnny because you two are unique on this show out of the four of us in the fact that you have both served in the military in some capacity. So we got your take, Remso. Johnny, what's your take? I know you were in the Air Force. What are your thoughts about Arvin's comments?
Actually, I was in the Army.
I'm sorry. Why did I think you were in there? But you flew planes,
That's an insult, Mark.
Yeah.
But you were a pilot, right? Is that why I got confused? Okay. My dad's in the Air Force, so I was probably just maybe. I bet if it's like a Freudian thing, maybe I just associate you with my dad. Maybe you're like you remind. That's not true. My dad doesn't drink. My dad doesn't smoke.
Johnny's like a father figure to you, maybe.
Come here, kid. You know what?
A lot of Freudian analysis we can get out of this show, but we'll do that afterwards.
Man, it's all messed up.
Roger's Remzo's dad. This is so weird.
This is all fucked up, man. You know what? I'll tell you what. I totally understand where Remzo is coming from, but I kind of get the principle and what Arvin's saying. I think he's a complete and total jackass for how he is doing it. So what I think he's trying to say is, if you know what the U.S. military's policies are and what the military is going to do, because it has nothing to really do with defense anymore, then chances are you're going to go to another country, invade another country, and do military actions which are unethical. So if you can live with that, then fine, join the military. I think the way he phrased it was wrong. He sounded like a jackass. And first of all, there's a lot of libertarians who have seen the light and who have come over from the military. And he's totally disassociating those. He's insulting those people who were once in the military. And a lot of people have shifted over. I mean, either some were Democrats, some were Republicans.
I mean, Ron Paul was in the military.
Yeah.
And all he did was stitch people up.
And sure, not everyone's not everyone's infantry either. Not everyone is shooting bullets. But
one of Arvin's comments that I saw him make on another Facebook thread related to this was that even if you're not someone who's an active, you're not someone who's part of actual combat or killing, you are supporting them, so you're essentially aiding and abetting killings. Was his argument. So what would you say to that?
I mean, to then ask my question. Arvin would be then, do you pay taxes? And he would probably say yes. So then you're aiding and abetting.
He'd probably say yes, but I didn't have a choice to pay the taxes. Whereas,
some people. Well, I get it, but still, somehow you're indirectly part of the system. And so, yes, I think what the military, a lot of their policies and the politicians that the politicians are making is wrong. I think we do need a defensive military. There's nothing wrong with that. That is honorable. It's acceptable. Fine. I have no issue with that. I think what he should have said is, you might want to ask yourself, if you're going overseas, you're doing all these things, do you want to join? Is it worth your life? Is it worth killing somebody for a policy that the U.S. government is making? And I think that's really what he should say, instead of just saying, well, if you're in the military, you're a murderer. Fuck you, dude. You're a dick. You're a dick. And I can't stand behind him on how he said that. He could have been more tactful. Absolutely.
Well, one argument will be, that many people will say, well, nobody woke up. Nobody got slapped out of their slumber because of a tactful approach. Some people just need to be slapped in the face. Some people need to hear Ron Paul say something like, oh, of course we should legalize heroin. They need to hear the extreme position. And I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I don't necessarily. Sure. I have conflicted views on this, to be honest.
My question is why? Like, what even caused him to go on that unhinged rant?
That's true. That's a good question, Remzo. I'm with you.
I just don't go and pick fights with people. I could say honestly, I have the ability to be a mean person when I want to, but I just don't go randomly online and just start spewing hate, or I just go up to somebody randomly and just start completely knocking them down for no reason. So I would like to know what caused that. Was he being interviewed? Did he just get a wild hair up his ass and say, I'm going to go after the military?
Remzo, my money is it's a publicity stunt. That's it. That's all it is.
Maybe I should try to interview Arvin about this. I've had him on the show before. I think he's
you might as
generally
well.
A reasonable guy. He might even be listening, or someone that knows him might be listening. And because I don't know. I've spoken with him at length, and he doesn't seem like a jerk or anything. But I don't think this even comes. I don't know. It's hard to say. I can see how it could come across that way. Definitely to people in the military. I mean, or or that are ex-military or what have you. Well, Odie, I want to get your thoughts first before I move on. There's one part I want to hone in on a little bit, but what do you think about this whole thing and what Johnny and Remso have had to say so far?
It's convoluted. It's complicated a little bit, and I do generally like Arvin, and I follow him on Facebook, and in general I like what he says. So this came across as pretty stupid, as a pretty tone deaf thing to say, and maybe it's because I have a show that focuses on the criminal justice system, as immediately I relate this back to the war on drugs. And I think this is comparable to saying something to the effect of, if you're a police officer, if your family member's a police officer, or if you support the police, or if you support people who favor the war on drugs, and the circle's getting wider and wider, then you're supporting locking people in cages and murdering people and ruining families. And while that might be true, it's not like everyone is enlightened and is thinking that through directly and has evil in their heart when they are holding those opinions. They don't understand what they're believing fully. They don't understand the implications of it. Maybe they don't have a friend or relative that has been locked away in a cage, or for this foreign policy example, they have no idea what is happening over there with bombs being dropped and wedding parties being bombed by drones and all the other terrible things happening with our foreign policy. So I think it's just a horrible way to message, first of all. And it's surprising that the vice chair of the Libertarian Party, it's not surprising because the Libertarian Party is so freaking tone deaf. It's unbelievable. But for Arvin, who's normally pretty measured and pretty calculated in the way that he words things, I'm with you, Remso. I don't know what crawled up his ass for him to just start attacking the military, families of military members in this manner. I mean, I'm not saying that he's 100% wrong. I mean, there's aspects of the truth in there. It's just a stupid way to try to grow a party, a stupid way to try to spread the message of liberty, and it's a stupid way to try to stop the military, to stop the U.S. government from doing the things that he's saying are, so immoral. I don't know. It's maddening.
I totally get what you're saying, the war on drugs analogy. That is a good one, because a lot of people will say, well, every cop is a rights violator because they all enforce the war on drugs. Therefore, it's justified to kill all cops. Now, Arvin's not saying it's justified to kill the military, and I'm not suggesting he's going that far, but it is a similar logic. It's one step away from that logic, because he is saying they are guilty of killing innocents, and therefore, I mean, the logical conclusion, if someone's guilty of killing and kidnapping, I mean, then you should be able to use force against them. So it is very, very important how we frame these things. I do want to focus on one...
But, I'm sorry, Mark, just real fast.
No,
look what happened when the war on terror started, when you did have situations where there may have been like a massacre in Iraq near Baghdad, where a U.S. Marine was urinating on the dead body of a jihadist. Typically, the media gets on it, most of the American population gets on it, and let me tell you, there is nothing more terrifying than the military coming after you when you've committed a crime.
That's
so
true.
Even
That's
then,
true.
even when things have gone wrong, I mean, look at the horror stories from Vietnam. An entire generation of drafted soldiers are now caricatured by freaking Apocalypse Now and Universal Soldier with Dolph Lundgren wearing a freaking necklace of ears around his neck. I mean, it's either constant villainizing or it's, you're setting them up as idols, but you never look at the people. I mean, just that itself, talk about the policy, talk about the politicians, talk about the immoral actions when you spot them. But if he's saying that, the military just, runs rampant with that, no.
I mean, Remso, I totally agree. It's like the individual. I mean, there's great guys, there's great people with families who don't want to go to war. The majority of most soldiers, you might get that one fucking crazy first sergeant or some bullshit like that. But I mean, majority of the military, they don't want to go to war. They're not out there wanting to kill people. They really don't. And, I think they would die to protect our country, but I feel like the overall morale of the military when I was in was, why are we going there? What the fuck? We have no reason. I mean, this is what I had seen.
So really what Arvin did here, to a degree, is he set up a straw man by saying, I agree to kill people because I wanted the money. What you guys are saying, and I agree with you, is that most of the people who go into the military do not go in with that premise.
No, I mean, they want, sure, in their mind, like, call it ignorance, but people who join the military say, hey, I'm here to defend my country, not to invade others. I mean, most people who join the military are too young to even fathom political policy. They don't know what the fuck's going on. They just feel like it's the right thing to do. Patriotism. I love my country. I want to protect my land. I want to protect my family. And this is an honorable thing to do. So I think they go in with that mentality. And there's not, if you believe that, fine. But that's not really what happens. And they end up going to some fucking third world country and their fucking arm gets blown off because they're where they're not supposed to be, in my opinion. They're good people. The majority of the military people, sure, you get a bunch of assholes every once in a while, but the majority of the military are good people. They're just like us. Well, they could sit around the table like we are, drinking beer and have this conversation. So, I mean, seriously, they're human beings. They're not just like this shell that they try to portray as, just killers, and they're just killing people. Kill, kill, kill. They have families. They do give a shit.
To play Arvin's advocate for a moment, not that I'm calling him the devil.
Arvin's advocate.
Not at all.
That's great.
I actually agree with almost every Facebook statement that he posts, in general, excluding this one. I mean, there are elements of truth in it. It's not, I wouldn't endorse the statement though. But there is something I do want to point out, and that's the very first thing he says here. He says a common excuse to join the military, and this part is the important part. Despite disagreeing with every single thing it does, the military pays for college. So to me, and I agree, the characterizations after that, I can totally get how that would rankle people that are in the military. What it seems to me he is saying are people who are aware. He's not referencing the people you guys are talking about who feel like they're going into things for the right reasons. He's talking about people who might be libertarians or not, I don't know, but people that disagree with, he's literally saying disagreeing with every single thing it does. So he's kind of pointing to those specific people that I'm assuming he must have encountered at some point here to set off this Facebook post. But he's referring to people that specifically do disagree with every single thing the military does, and then saying that it's immoral to disagree with all these things, think they're immoral, but then say, but anyway, I want to do it for the money. So to me, I'm not saying I agree with the rest of the statement. I'm just saying I do think he's being more specific than painting the military with a broad brush. Now, he does paint it with a broad brush the sentence after when he says, translation, I agreed to kill innocent people because I wanted the money, because at that point, he is basically saying if you join the military, you agree to kill innocent people. But, I mean, yeah. He is kind of referring to people that already think that. So to me, he's kind of saying, if you think that the military, what they do is kill innocent people, and you are ignoring that because you just want money, well, that is what I think he's really trying to call out. And I don't think it's a smart thing for him to say, and I don't think a lot of his other comments are favorable to the military. I mean, he even said on the show, he basically doesn't think we should have a military. So that's where he's coming from.
You know what's hilarious, though, Mark? I saw a picture online, and they showed... what's her name? Kellyanne Conway. They show a picture of Kellyanne Conway when she was on the couch, and it said Democrats. It's like, oh, look at the way she's sitting on the couch, and then the picture underneath it shows the Democrats not standing during the State of the Union, and it says, oh, the Republicans. Oh, look, the Democrats are sitting down, and then the last picture is the Libertarians, and they're like, people were $20 trillion in debt.
Yeah.
It's like of all the crazy things, of all the problems, of all the issues, of all the challenges he has to face, he's aiming at less than 0.75% of the freaking population. I mean, seriously? It goes back to what I asked earlier. It's like, where did this come from? Because I didn't wake up this morning and say, I'm going to freaking start a fight with Arvin Vohra and try and make sure he gets kicked out. No, I remember his State of the Union speech a couple years ago when he was speaking on behalf of the LP. I think it was 2014, 2015.
Yeah, it was really good.
I remember watching that, and I'm like, wow.
He's a very good speaker.
Yeah, I want to be part of that. But for this to happen, I'm sorry. I let a lot of things slide But this was just that line that he crossed, and it's like, you want to go there? This is what happens when you go there.
Yeah. I mean, all I'm saying is he could have been, like you were saying, Mark, if you had this knowledge, if you knew about the war, or if you knew that this is bad and you're going to do bad things and you're going to do it for the college money, I don't think anyone would. Or maybe there would be that one guy.
That is what he said, though. That's what he said. He didn't flesh it out like that, and maybe he should have.
No, but that's what I'm saying. He should have. And if that's what he really means. But I honestly believe that this is a publicity stunt just to get people riled up and talking and cause controversy. And I don't know. That would be the only reason I would say something like that, is to stir the pot. Seriously.
Do you think okay, so let's dig into Libertarian Party conspiracy theories then, if we're going to go there. Do you think Arvin has sights on the chairmanship currently held by Mr. Sarwark?
He's not doing
a fight to the death.
He ain't doing really good at promoting that. I mean, I think it's a bad move.
I saw that it was on April 1st, but I saw that Michael Pickens posted that he was going to run for the chairmanship. Was that April Fool's joke?
Well, no, I think I saw that too. I think he was reposting something someone made for him. Like, I don't think that was not.
Somebody else wanted him to run.
Yeah, okay.
And
was that.
Pickens was like, "Oh, that's not happening."
Man, should we be dirty? Should we talk libertarian gossip? I was going to get into some levers of liberty, but we're kind of running short on time now, so I think I'm going to save those for another show, because I really wanted to dig deep into this topic, especially once the passion started pouring. I wasn't about to put a stop to it. Did you guys happen to see that there was a little bit of back and forth shit talking between our good friend and a sponsor of the show, Chris Spangle of We Are Libertarians, and one Michael Pickens, also a friend of the show, who's been on the show before. He's been big into libertarian leadership training over the last few years, and there was some. Anybody see that spat?
No, I actually didn't.
I did not. Yeah.
All right,
Can someone explain it to me?
I guess I could take a screenshot. I don't know, not really, because it wasn't really intellectually based.
It was just like, you're stupid. No, you're stupid. I don't know.
Was it just a bunch of dick measuring?
Sort of.
Was it Spangle calling Pickens a pothead?
No, it was Pickens calling Chris like fatty and stuff. I'm like,
it did get into that
really?
Eventually. I got the sense that Pickens, my good man Pickens, may have had a drink or two. I'm just guessing.
I don't know.
It was starting to get a little slippery.
But Chris is like, can you believe this shit? What the fuck? This guy just came after me out of nowhere. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Man, you do not want to get on the wrong side of the boys at We Are Libertarians, Spangle and Greg Lenz. I mean, if you do, they will meme you to death. They're
like the MS-13 of libertarians.
Man. Yeah, they will. If you say one false thing on Facebook, expect it to be screenshotted and posted everywhere. Just expect it. It's fun. I'm having fun with this. I like both people I've mentioned a lot, so I just like to gossip, because what the hell? We just talked about some serious shit for like an hour.
Yeah, we did. That was pretty. That's pretty. You sound like a bunch of chicks. Did you hear what?
Did you hear what Michael Pickens said about Chris Spangle?
Do you know what?
Oh my God, Becky! Oh my God.
Boys. Well, boys, it's been a blast, and while I am going to wrap up this show, I'd like to let everybody out there know that the show's not really going to end, because for members of our paid group, the Pride, the Liberty Pride, the Lions of Liberty Pride, those guys are going to get even more content, because as soon as we finish this thing right here, we're going to do a bonus show. We're going to take a couple questions and tackle some interesting topics. Let's just put it that way. But we're going to talk about some stuff that's not necessarily Liberty topics, but it's all related to things we do, obviously. But if you want to check that out, you got to join the Pride for as little as $5 a month. So check that out. Go over to lionsofliberty.com/support. And you'll get all your info there. You can, of course, find info and links to everything we discussed today, a whole bunch of it. I'll try to get maybe a screenshot of the Arvin thing and basically try to mention everything we referenced today. It was a lot, but I will do my thorough research and gather it all. Find all that at today's show notes, lionsofliberty.com/295. Before I wrap things up, before we do a little live long, live free sign off, guys, any last words from you fellows? I'll start with Odie.
Yeah, I just want to say that it was good to have Johnny and Remzo on the show. I enjoy both your podcasts, and it was unique to have a Libertarians and Living Rooms drinking liquor with both of you here, and I'm glad that you decided to come on and drink some liquor and talk some liberty.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, man.
So, John, do you want to give us a little preview of what you got coming here on Felony Friday?
This week on Felony Friday, I know it's been a while since we've played a little Is This a Crime and Should Anyone Do Time? So I'm going to be having on a favorite of Lions of Liberty, our legal counsel, Mr. Rico, to talk about some crimes and to talk through them. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, that sounds fun. I'm looking forward to that too, because Rico's always a good time. Moving on to Remzo. Remzo, obviously you can give your final thoughts, but be sure to mention a little announcement that you actually made today on the day of recording.
Yeah, so this summer, I'm actually going to be doing the show full time. See where it goes. Starting Tuesday, we're actually going to be doing probably a 30-minute long live show on my fan page, just Remso, REMSO Martinez. Apart from that, I mean, this summer we're filled with stuff. We're sponsoring Johnny's Comic, Liberty Force. I'm going to be speaking with Turning Point USA with the Atlas Society on the topic of why Latinos should read Ayn Rand at Freedom Fest. And then August, I'll be
why Latinos should read Ayn Rand?
Yeah, they've obviously never met me. But yeah, I mean,
that is an interesting topic.
But I'll be talking.
His last name's Martinez. Get him.
Yeah, I'm super Puerto Rican you'll ever meet. My brother Ryan, who produces the Remso Republic, he has blonde hair, blue eyes, and freckles, and he speaks more Spanish than I do. It freaks people out. But yeah, we've got Fanboys and Freedom, which Lions of Liberty is sponsoring, coming out in a couple of weeks. We're covering V for Vendetta, Legion, Logan, a bunch of other places. And then in August,
and you might even hear some familiar voices narrating some of those episodes.
Oh, don't spoil it.
I said
yeah,
might.
Maybe. And then finally, we come back for season 3 of the podcast on July 5th. So we've got a giant summer going on, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Do you happen to have any special guest planned for that premiere episode that we should know about?
Secrets. You've got to tune
I'm
in.
really bad at this stuff. All right, let's just move on.
And Remzo, you just graduated from college, right?
I did. I just graduated from Liberty University.
So congrats on that. If anyone out there listening,
you have a degree in Liberty.
Remzo,
you just got a degree in Liberty. That's awesome. I didn't know they had those.
Remzo, could you just quickly go through your resume real quick?
Oh, you want the entire thing?
We can link to it.
I'm just kidding.
I could literally link to your resume. Maybe I will.
It might help me get a full-time job, so I don't have to be a full-time podcaster. So, that might actually help me.
Wouldn't you rather be a full-time podcaster? If you could actually make the same money, though?
If I could make the same money, of course. But, here's the thing. Like, I talked to a couple of friends of mine as I'm, begging for sponsors and donors. And they're like, man, aren't you excited to be doing this full time? And honestly, no, because I like working.
Just what your fans want to hear right before you go into it full time.
I love the show, but here's the thing. I like working because it gives me opportunities to bring more knowledge to the show. It gives me better connections. I liked being a policy guy. I liked writing for FreedomWorks. I liked covering, what the media was doing at the Media Research Center. I liked community organizing and campaigning. I mean, I helped a guy get elected to Congress. Now he's part of the House Freedom Caucus. I mean, I like work. And I think when I'm working for something where I'm actually really seeing the impact in the freedom movement, I think it helps my show. And I think when I just do my show, here's the great thing. It's like I'm going out into the wild blue yonder because Ryan and I didn't decide we were going to do this until a couple weeks ago. This was an option. But this wasn't really on the top of our list. So, yeah, we're excited and we've got so much going on and we're going to try and make this as great as possible. And if we can make a living from this, of course. But, I do like to work. It's just part of me. I mean, I like to go out and knock on doors and everything else. I mean, it's just part of who I am. So I feel like a part of me isn't necessarily there when I'm committing full time to this. And we'll see. I might change my minds. But, that's just kind of how I am right now.
All right. Well,
you
either
can still
way,
knock on doors, Remzo. Advertise the podcast.
Would you like to sponsor the Remso Republic?
Have you listened to a podcast today?
Let me tell you.
Let me tell you what Liberty can do for you. All right, Johnny and Remzo. Speaking of spoil, you're getting on me for spoiling things. You already spoiled a Johnny announcement. So, Johnny, why don't you give us some final thoughts about the show today? But you're not going to get away with it. I know you didn't want to make a big deal, but you got a big thing coming up too. A little comic that we're sponsoring as well. So, tell us everything.
I had a great. I just want to say congratulations to Remzo.
Yeah, congrats to Remzo. I'm going to drink even more for you right now.
Remzo, you're awesome. Thank you very much for everything. But seriously, I totally respect where your point of view is, and I totally get it on today's show. But yes, I have a goddamn comic book that I'm doing. It's called The Liberty Force, and so I I'm going to text Jamie Sherman and tell him this is the number 2 best-selling libertarian comic book ever.
Because there's 2.
Because there's 2.
And yours isn't out yet.
Yes. And it will be, though. So we actually got the money for it. We got full funding. It's already, we got it. It's done. If you guys send your money. So that'd be great.
if we follow up on our sponsorship promise. Yeah, Johnny, about that. I kind of ran into some issues with this guy named Guido, and it's going to be a few weeks.
Gotcha.
Anyway.
But yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's a cool comic. I enjoyed writing it. I've been sending Remzo. Remzo's read pretty much 90% of it. And so he's kind of our,
I get it. Remzo gets to read everything behind the scenes. Okay, no big
when
deal.
you make a commercial, you can see it, Mark.
That's true.
Well,
you did make the
he
video
made
commercial.
the commercial, so I had to give him information.
That's fair. That's fair.
But I mean, I'm taking a very, is it overtly libertarian? Yes, but it's not over the top. It's like we don't, I'm trying to be a little subtle about it. Liberty's more or less the story. Is part of the story.
I'll tell you what it is I've seen some select pages and panels, and it's fun. That's what it is. I mean,
I wanted to make it fun.
Yeah, exactly.
And I wanted to actually make the feel like the show, like our show. It's like kind of fun. There's liberty in it. There's rock and roll. There's jokes. There's humor. But then yet there's this tone of seriousness. So, I mean, I really am enjoying. I've been doing this shit for 6 months now on the weekends. Every fucking weekend, and I'm fucking glad it's done. It's almost done. I got like 3 pages left, and it's cool. I love doing it, but if I could just do that for a living, I'd be fucking happy. Doing it when you work 10-hour days and then work, it's like fuck. But I'm doing it because I love liberty, and I want to spread the message of liberty. And it was just a huge honor to be here on the show. And by the way, speaking of which. The website is www.libertyforcecomic.com. So, and I should have purchased that domain prior to the show airing. So, let's just hope there's no cyber squatters.
Waiting for some funds to come
available?
through. We're gonna investigate after the show, see if that domain is available.
And I just bought it. Price just went up, Johnny.
Damn it, Odie.
The free market is wonderful, isn't it, guys?
Oh yeah, it's great.
All right, guys.
Anyways,
yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Well, I felt like I needed some spice on the show, so I called in 2 of the spiciest.
Are you saying that because I'm Latino?
Couldn't even finish that sentence.
I could not even finish the sentence.
Finish it, Mark.
It's because you're Latino, yes. The spiciest dudes I know. 3 of the spiciest dudes I know. I'm not calling you not spicy, Odie. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, thank you.
The alcohol's working, guys. I think it's time to wrap up. Just think about how fun the bonus show is going to be, though, because I've already been drinking for well over an hour. All of us have. So, until the bonus show, if you guys go over and join the Pride, until next time, guys, I've only got one thing to ask you guys to do, and that is, of course, live long
and